Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where we talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the season premiere of Titans. Great season premiere. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So I thought it was kind of a nice situation for the Titans to kind of be able to just kind of relax, because we've never seen them just kind of having fun to some extent. I mean, we saw some stuff here and there with the Titans of the past kind of partying, but then just like taking time off. It's like, right, we're not saving the world all the time. I even love, like, yeah, it's been basically a week or so. At that earlier points, it was like a couple of days, but basically it had been a week since season 3's finale. So I was like, oh, that's interesting. Because season 1 and season 2 was like immediately, but obviously that's because of just the way, like, the episodes fell and just how that whole production situation worked. So that's why, like, season 2 like played out the way it did at the beginning. But obviously season 2 to 3, I believe, was like a couple of months. So I just thought it was kind of interesting going for like a week time frame. And yeah, they're on their way back to San Francisco, but it's like, hey, let's take a stop to Metropolis because, hey, Superman apparently wants to meet you, Connor. So that's actually pretty dope. And I do love this and I think this is going to be a bit part of, well, it seemed like they were setting this up to be a bit part of this season, is Connor trying to really get an answer to who he is. He's never met either side. He's bumped uglies with, like, the whole, well, I didn't mean that in the sexual way that bumping uglies usually means. He's bumped heads, collided with Lex indirectly, while also directly, sure. It's been his people, sure, but he's never been in a situation of meeting Lex personally. And this is going to be his opportunity to meet Superman. It's like, hey, let's show up at the Star Labs. It's all, like, awesome and everything. Sadly, he doesn't get to meet his dad, which I thought was interesting, especially because Lex wants to meet you. And yes, Clark wants to meet you too, but it just, things kept getting in the way. I mean, it is that thing of, like, he isn't just Earth's hero. He has to help out. He's a universal hero. So it's like, yeah, he's got to help out on that front. And I do love the representation of, like, all right, like, here's kind of a star map, and it's like, oh, here's this fast moving red, like, almost looking like a red, like, comet or shooting stars. Like, what is that? Like, oh, that's Superman. I was like, that's such a neat representation of him, like, just like not barreling, just like speeding through, like, the space, kind of getting where he needs to go. So I thought that was interesting. But I even love when Connor's putting on the glasses on it. Dick turns to look at him and just smiles. He's like, "What?" He's like, "Nothing." It's just like, yeah. It's just like, right. It's like watching a little mini Clark Kent. I know. I thought that was kind of pretty dope. Obviously, Corey's still figuring out everything with her powers. It's an adjustment. Her sister, the powers that she's kind of known for so long, ended up going to her sister. Now she has these powers. Apparently something that's just been ingrained in her forever. And also finding out, like, oh, cool, you've only scratched the surface of fully what you can do, which, oh, that's cool. But you're also like, I'm scared about if that's 8%, I'm scared of what 100% is going to look like. 100% sounds like, oh, you can burn an entire world to the ground if you wanted to, type of thing, but we'll see. I love that Tim got so excited when he was like, oh my God, you got me a Robinson. It's like, no, why would I give you a Robinson? You've been a Titan for 5 whole minutes, but I didn't get you a bow staff. And it's like, and I'm going to train you. So that's pretty dope. I think Guard gets what is fully his more traditional suit, because I think he has it in Young Justice. Obviously, there's the suit he has in the Teen Titans cartoon, Teen Titans Go. I guess that's because I think the suit he's wearing now is like classic Beast Boy, and I guess like the maybe green and black might be a more modernized Beast Boy, maybe, or I might have those flipped. I feel like that is like the white and red one is definitely, because his jacket's an homage to it, but now he's getting like the full blown suit. But then all of a sudden, like, because they touch on it in the trailer that Gar's like something's calling to Gar. Like when he transformed, apparently like he went into a trance state, went full gorilla, velociraptor, and armadillo, and caused some mass destruction. And it's like he's never lost himself like that, which I was like, oh, that's so weird. And the tree he saw and everything, I'm like, what is that place he ended? I'm like, what's that all about? And then immediately I had to go like, wait, you don't think they're doing like a similar The Beast Within storyline? Because that's one of my favorite episodes of the original Teen Titans. It was like everyone kind of assumed like Gar was like losing his mind, like that he was the one who ended up, well, well, Beast Boy. I'd say Guard because it's like they never call him by Guard in the original Teen Titans cartoon. It's always Beast Boy. But Beast Boy, like it was like Raven that got attacked, and they thought it was him, but it's just because someone else had gotten infected. The bad guy they were fighting. That whole episode, if you remember it, but it introduced the fact is there's something deeper inside of Beast Boy that he was scared about. I don't think it ever popped up again throughout their series. I think it was that one episode. But it was kind of like he was scared of it. He was like, whatever that thing is, it's inside of me. So I'm curious, could this be kind of a similar thing of like that animal that exists deep within him? Are they going to do kind of a similar Beast Within storyline? I believe that's the episode's title, The Beast Within. So I think that'd be interesting because it didn't even cross my mind until I started watching the episode. Even with that in the trailer, it didn't cross my mind until just now. I'm like, maybe that could be where they're going, or maybe it's completely unrelated. Because obviously his powers are expanding, and because initially it was like, right, you're just going to transform into a tiger, but now he's gotten to the point, especially after last season, he's transforming into more things. I mean, even when they were bowling, he transformed his arm to an octopus arm, tentacle, just for bowling. It's like, no powers. It's like, no, everyone's got to use the skills that they've got, access to. So I also do appreciate the whole, Dick and Corey being kind of mama and papa Titan, kind of overlooking, look at the kids having fun. It's like, yeah, it's like both of them kind of happy and how much they've grown and they've kind of centered themselves after everything that they've been through, especially for Corey. She's like, yeah, like I've been through how many Destiny now? It's like, well, kill Rachel, save Tamarin, and also kill a whole bunch more people, save Gotham. It's like, yeah. Because at first, the way they were talking to each other, I was like, I thought they made a point. Maybe they changed their mind, but I thought they made a point that they weren't going to do the whole Dick and Starfire thing. I don't know. Like I said, that might not be like a relationship thing. It's like, right, we're like co-captains of this thing. We're the parents of this like hodgepodge group, right? Like little, like, misfit. So like, maybe that's what that is. Maybe it's just kind of like we're not like a thing, but we're like mom and pop to this whole Titan situation. Because apparently that's a very classic thing in the comics. I never knew like Dick and Starfire being a thing. Apparently that's a very like old school thing in the comics. But I mean, maybe most people are like grew up with it. Like was my main introduction to them was the Teen Titan cartoon, which obviously Teen Titans and Teen Titans Go really lean into the Robin and Starfire situation. But once again, I guess most modern things are probably like Nightwing and Batgirl, Barbara specifically, but either way. So that was really interesting, kind of like that being like their reasons for being in Metropolis. It's like, well, it makes sense. Of course, you took a drop off to Gotham. Like, I even love everyone be like, oh my God, no, we're not going back to Gotham. And Gar was like, I don't mind going back to Gotham. He's the only one that didn't kind of have a rough time in Gotham speaking, so he's kind of like, Gotham wasn't kind of a terrible situation for me. It literally was for everyone else, but I had a fine time in Gotham, so I just think that's kind of a funny thing. But I do love that the truck they got, the vehicle they got is all decked out because of Star Labs, but obviously, a main thing in this episode is the whole situation with Lex Luthor himself. Once again, I think I talked about it in my trailer discussion, but I might have cut it out. I don't remember. The whole Lex being played by Titus, I'm going to butcher his name. When I look at it, I say like Welliver. It might be Welliver. Either way, the thing I best know him for is the show Bosch on Amazon and obviously Bosch Legacy on Freevee. But yeah, like I had no idea prior to the trailers that Lex Luthor was going to be this, and even less so that he was playing Lex. So I was like, oh, that's interesting. So obviously getting mixed up in the occult, but we find out later on why he's mixed up in the occult, because he's trying to find a way to cure himself, because lo and behold, he has kryptonite poisoning, which are almost like, karma's a bitch, isn't it? It's probably all that trying to kill Superman, surrounding yourself with so much kryptonite type of situation. Your need to like outdo him ended up being your undoing. I can only assume. But I was also thinking to myself, I was like, who was it recently that was like dying from kryptonite poison? I was like, all right, it was Ryan Wilder and Batwoman. She had like gotten hit with a kryptonite bullet. So so I thought that was interesting. So I was like, because I knew that was like fresh in my mind. I just couldn't place where it was, but it was like, yeah, it was Batwoman. Wasn't it Ryan? I don't think it was. No, it wasn't Kate. It was definitely Ryan, because she needed a very special plant from Sophia's island to like heal herself and everything. So either way, putting all that aside, I even love that whole situation, and it also shows you just like Lex is just up. I mean, it's Lex Luthor, so a main part of his character is his obsession with Superman. Yeah, I've never really thought about it too much of just the interesting parallels between Batman and Joker and Superman and Lex. How there is that kind of like obsession. It's this very like intense love-hate relationship because it's like admiration, but also jealousy. It's like, I want to be you, but I hate you type of thing. I mean, Joker's a little different than that, but you know, there is some like I think overlap in the kind of the Venn diagram between those two different sets of villain hero dynamics, especially when it comes like to those arch nemesis elements there then and there. But the fact is that like Dr. Bennett was like, yeah, you'll be stronger than him. I just find it fun. You didn't even want to say his name because you were just probably like, I don't want to rub salt in the wound by actually saying his name. But yeah, be stronger than him, as in Superman. So it's like, yeah, I love that line though. It's like, yeah, the gods will know your name. He's like, Dr. Bennett, I'm sure the gods already know my name. It's like I've made enough noise. I mean, as we got some of his records of like some of the stuff he's gotten in trouble for. I love in this universe he's already done some space crimes. I'm like, what does that entail? It is interesting that it's always fascinating because it's like, right, so in this universe you've already done some villainous shit to the point that you've done some space-based crime. So it's like, yeah, you've done your supervillain thing, yet you're still walking. I mean, you must have some amazing lawyers. I mean, it's like, well, you're Lex Luthor, you are filthy fucking rich, so of course you're gonna like have the best lawyer. So it's just an interesting thing. But yeah, him reaching out to Connor. And my thought immediately was, oh, he's got to be using Connor because what did Dr. Bennett say? Like, accessing what you want, the power of the occult, here's the Temple of Azeroth. Like, if you use this, like, it comes at a price. I thought the sacrifice, he was trying to get Connor close to him so he could sacrifice Connor. Because I didn't know if it was like I'm going to sacrifice Connor so I could get the powers of the gods. Or am I going to go, hey, I'm going to take my brain out of my dying body and put it in Connor's, like, ooh, so strong. And if, you know, with my intellect, he's already half me, so maybe it's less likely for his brain to be rejected or something like it. That's what my immediate thought was. Jumping ahead a little bit, I'm super surprised they killed Lex. That's why I'm like, there's no way they just killed off, like, they introduced him just to murder him like that. I mean, I guess he's like part of the setup, but maybe he's not the main antagonist. Or either he's going to rear his ugly head and be like, it was me all along. It's like, did you really not think I had some contingency plan? Because especially with what he was doing at the end of the episode, it felt like he was setting some stuff up. So, but I mean, you know, really going into it, Lex wanting to meet Connor and pick the most dickish way to like, he's like, right, I had no other way to contact you, so this is how I'm just gonna like beam my thoughts into your head. But Dick and Corey are like, no, do not go there. This guy can't be trusted. But it's like, yeah, everyone deserves to know their parents, like, especially because he's trying to learn about himself. It's like, right, he hasn't been able to talk to Superman. I think for Dick, he'd probably feel better if it's like, if you had talked to Superman first, I would have felt better about it rather than like, I mean, but he does recognize, like, right, this is what we do as super people. Like, we save the day. Like, this is, you know, I mean, that's what the sigil in that S chest means. Because I don't know in this continuity if he knows about, like, the House of Ellen, what that means. That sigil means hope. You know, I don't know, like, I don't remember if that was really ever introduced to him in, like, season 2. I don't think it came up in season 3, but I don't remember if it came up in season 2 when he was first introduced or not. Either way, Corey goes in to make her introduction. I love, he's like, oh, Corey, Starfire, or should I call you Coriander? He's like, you can call me Corey, Lex. And I was like, oh, I love it. And she's like, oh yeah, but what was that remark she made? She's like, yeah, you would never know anything about feeling small, inadequate, or powerless or something. But I mean, you'd never know. And he's just smiling and just like, oh, I love her being cheeky. And I even love that little technology of like, yeah, like downloading like that little bug thing that's basically like it sneaks into one of the ports and kind of gives him access to everything. But Lex is like, oh no, like you're kind of you think I wouldn't know what you were up to. And I love that it's such a specific and interesting thing for him to call him Richard. It's like, oh, I just think that's such because obviously no one calls him that. Everyone calls him Dick. So it's interesting for Lex to make, I think that's such a very interesting choice to, I mean, it kind of reminds me of like Homelander, how Homelander doesn't call him Butcher like everyone else does. He calls him William, which it just makes me think of that line. Oh, I had breakfast with your wife. It was delicious. And he kind of rolls his tongue a little bit. To me, that's just one of the most like dickish, like, funniest things that Homelander's done. I mean, I gotta also make it clear, Homelander's the biggest piece of shit. He's a terrible person. I gotta make that clear because I don't want anyone to be like, oh, you team Homelander? It's like, oh, he's an enjoyable villain, but he's a terrible piece of shit. I gotta make that clear, you know? Either way, tangents and all that aside, and I love that Nightwing has to go up against the ninjas. He's like, oh, I hate ninjas. And I'm like, what does that stem from? I was like, is that part of me was like, that can't be like on a League of Assassins thing. Cause I'm like, are the like agents of the League, are they, well, I guess the League of Shadows, because it goes back and forth between both names. I think it's a League of Shadows, but Arrow specifically went down a route of League of Assassins, but I think it is interchangeable. But I'm like, is that what that's... I mean, it would be also befitting, too, considering we dealt with the Lazarus Pit last season, too. So it'd be interesting if, like, that's why he hates ninjas, specifically. I'm sure maybe there's other people associated with ninjas, but they come to my mind. But like I said, I don't know if the agents of that organization, of the League, are, like, whether they're really known as, like, ninjas or not. So, but I love it. It's like, oh, you good? No, yeah. And he's just like, I just hate ninjas. He's like, okay, cool, more ninjas. I did appreciate him. He's like, well, I'm not going to bother picking up my batons. Let's pick up the sword and get to work. So that all worked out. So, and I even love Lex's line of like, yeah, just remember, Richard, this is me being gentle. It's like, phew, I love that line. I do like Titus Welliver in this role because he does, like, there is something he brings to it. Like, he has this it is really interesting, like, just comparing different Lex Luthors. Like, obviously, like, I don't really remember Jesse Eisenberg's that well. Obviously, I have a lot more experience with Michael Rosenbaum's, John Cryer's, and now a little experience with Titus Welliver's. So it's just such an interesting, like, thing of just, once again, I hope it's not all we're getting in Lex. I don't think it is. I think Lex is the big picture guy. And like I said, the way he was setting Connor up to be like, yeah, my associates are up to something. It's like, no, you are up to something because you fired all your other associates. Not unless he found out that, like, oh, they're doing some backstabby shit behind my back. But I think he probably accounted for it. I mean, we are talking about one of the smartest people. I don't know if he's considered, like, one of the smartest, like, villains in the DC universe, but he is pretty smart. I won't go as far as, like, smartest, but he is duplicitous, maniacal, sociopathic people in the universe. I mean, even that's debatable but it's like, yeah, like, he's pretty damn smart. So I don't know. I feel like he could see some of that betrayal coming a while away. So I just feel Lex is also the person who has contingency upon contingency upon contingency upon contingency. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see if, like, he is straight up dead. But what's also interesting too is the connection between him, Rachel, and Sebastian, who played by Joseph Morgan. I once again best know as Klaus from the originals. Well, Vampire Diaries and the originals. So feels like he's just kind of a taxidermist, and he wants to invent. He's like, oh, my inventions will save the world, make people happy for hours. You know, people just being happy and content, and isn't that what we all want? But then, like, when some of, like, Rachel's having her visions, it seems like it overlaps with him. Like, I don't know if that's what because obviously this whole season's leaning into the occult. So, and especially if it has something to do with, like, the Temple of Azeroth, it's like, obviously that's going to bleed over into, with Rachel. But it also seems like, obviously that connects Lex to Rachel, but also it seems like it connects to Sebastian. And there's also that killer at one point in the episode, which I love that couple. I think they're a couple, was watching Riverdale. I was like, of course you are. I love that. I mean, because technically Riverdale is under the Warner Brothers umbrella because it's under the CW, you know? So I know specific what season they were watching too, because she made that remark of like, no, the guy was like, yo, like, I hate all these characters. Focus on the main characters. I'm like, I love that. It's specifically season 5. It had to be like after episode 5 because that's when the time skip happened. Because obviously they had to compensate because of COVID. Obviously season 4 was cut short, so they got to the time skip element like later, a couple episodes into the season. So that had to be like, because that was like Archie in his like army uniform and everything too. So I was like, oh, dude, I love that. And it's like, yeah, they should all be focusing on kissing or something. And that guy was like completely frozen. She started eating like, I don't know if that was just like the what she was eating noodles, but I don't know what they were replaced with, like intestines or something, or just there was a whole bunch of blood, and then she got her throat slit by something that was roaring. So you're like, what the hell is that? So I don't know if that has a direct correlation. Like, I don't know if that's something connected to Dr. Bennett and them, or whether that's something completely separate that's connected to all this cult stuff. There's so many moving pieces on the occult front. It's hard to say. It has to all be connected, but I'm wondering, like, who's on what team. Sebastian seems like to be doing his own thing, but I think Bennett's eventually going to come and recruit Sebastian for his role to kind of fill that void where Lex is no longer around. Because it's like, oh, you're going to cut me out of this, even though I've been a part of this project for 5 years. I've been by your side for 5 years, and you're going to cut me out. It's like, nah, fuck that. I'm going to kill you. And apparently, sadly, Connor ends up suffering the ramifications of that. He ends up getting the one. Especially because he was willing to help Lex. It's like, right, Lex is apparently dying. He's got like 6 months to live. It's like, right, despite everything, I'm not doing this necessarily for Lex. I'm doing it for me. I need to know who I am. And even if it means I have to leave behind this family I built for myself, I need to know who I am. Everyone has the right to know where they come from. Even Dick agrees. He doesn't like Lex. He doesn't trust Lex. And even him and Corey just going like, oh, how much they hate him. And at the end of the day, they just hope Connor made the right choice, because, they're like, right, he's just trying to use you to cure him. It's like, it still could be true, because Lex claims, like, I have enough of your genetic material left. I was able to, like, test out whether or not I could be cured. Turns out I can't be, but he was finding another route. Once again, whether that's just like, oh, I'm going to sacrifice you, take the energy from you and become a god, or I'm just going to straight up snatch your body. Because it's like, well, why did you make me? It's like, well, because I wanted to be Superman. It's like, once again, kind of into that jealousy and obsession. But it's like, no matter what I did, I could never become Superman. He's like, I never knew it. So the next best thing was I made my son Superman. Not only did I make you, Superman, but I also made sure to make you man too, And he made a point that is a very poignant conversation that I think I talked about this in the trailer discussion. Once again, I don't remember if I cut it out or kept it in. But to me, it is one of my favorite conversations about Superman and Superman and Lois. Like, I know there's probably comic books that have really leaned into this element. The episode is specifically 6, and it's about trust. And so it is this element of every time I go out there and use my powers, I'm being tested. Like, that trust is built up and being tested. Like, I've gone through a lot to build up this trust in people, but that trust is tested every time I use my powers, So it's kind of that conversation where it's like, Lex is more so coming from the perspective of, well, people wholeheartedly accept you because you're Superman. They know that side of you. But if they ever knew about the side of you that's me, they would kind of demonize you. One mistake, it could all come crumbling down, which we do see at the end. Like, those people come in being like, oh my God, you killed Lex. It's like, now he's going to be punished for that. And even Seth, like, right, there's that line from the trailer, they will never let me forget what I am. I thought that was from the perspective of, right, you have these powers, we have to be weary of you. But it's like, no, they'll never let you forget that you're part Lex. And just because he's a part of you, they assume that whatever made him is kind of in you. And even that was kind of something he wanted. He's like, past everything, I want you to know me, because everyone else has painted Lex in a certain light, because everyone has their perspective and their experiences with Lex, and it's like, no, let me tell you who I am. My son's point of view of me shouldn't be clouded by anyone else's perspective. Sure as hell no Men of Steel, type of situation. So, and as in, like, specifically Clark as a Man of Steel, not specifically referencing the movie Man of Steel. Once again, timing is also interesting too. They did not coordinate this, but the timing is interesting, especially for the whole Henry Cavill Man of Steel sequel potentially situation. So I think that's so fascinating. Well, I mean, it's kind of confirmed he's back for Superman, but we don't know if it's going to be like a Man of Steel 2 or what they're going to do with the Superman side of things. This being the first episode, obviously there's a lot of questions about where this is all going. Once again, is Lex really dead? I'm still kind of, part of me is like, maybe he is, but there's a majority of me being like, no, there's some lone play, some lone con, as I mentioned before, that it's got to be part of his plan or something like that. He's going to pop back up and like, oh yeah, you really thought this was the end, and like, yeah, prove to be the person everyone told Connor he was. But even Connor says like, right, I need to see it I need to experience it myself, because there's also a part of like, yeah, like whatever he is a part of me, and discovering and understanding that part of myself could make me, finally feel complete, because both sides of himself are still a mystery, because he still hasn't met Clark, and given the opportunity, he hasn't had a chance to actually meet Lex, because Lex dies in front of him before he has the opportunity. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see where this season ends up taking us going forward, going forward in general, but definitely where everything ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.